Welcome to Friday Night Knits, Veterans Day edition. Hopefully, the camera is focusing. Well, I am home today. I usually film on Friday early evening and then post, but because I decided to go out for my Friday Night Knits and I came home and was just really tired because it was a long week, but a good week, I decided to just uh, save it for Monday. Plus, I knew my husband will be at work and that my sons will be engaged in other activities. And sure enough, that's the situation. So today, I wanted to share this version of the episode just to catch you up on my current projects, as well as discuss some hot takes on my mind that have nothing to do what's going on politically in the United States or even in the world. So first things first, I have not one but two finished objects that I'm naturally not wearing because it is very, very warm today. So my first finished object that I finished that I actually could wear today, but I'm not going to, is this lovely baby. This is the Solare by Locatelli. It is a worsted weight pattern that calls for these beautiful cables at the top. There's also German short rolls, a lovely ribbed, it's about a 3x2 collar. Sorry, took me a minute. And yeah, you do the raglan increases, and then once, yeah, because it's more like a round yoke increases in raglan. So that's probably a better way to describing it. But it's not as drop shouldery because I've had some yoke, round yoke patterns where I felt like it was too far down my bicep. And for some of the patterns, it looks good on, and others, it's like maybe that wasn't my best choice. But for this one, it's been a good choice in terms of the round yoke. I've talked about my journey with this sweater more times than I care to admit, but if this is your first time, here's a quick recap. I love the color purple. I wanted to do a faded color purple Solari sweater. I bought this beautiful kit for one of Stevie Muss's mystery knit alongs, and I decided not to knit the shawl. And I have this kit, and so decided to use it to make the Solari because I knew if I held it double, it would give me the weight I need in order to meet gauge. And so I initially met gauge, created a beautiful fade pattern with the swatch, and started checking away. For some reason, I second guessed the actual plans that would put into place, and I started to fade to the new color earlier than what I was supposed to. But all in all, it still came out really well. If I were to fade a sweater again, I would just trust the gauge swatch that I made because I used my own inspiration. I had a very clear plan, and I don't know why I second guessed my plan. This indecisiveness has been a huge issue for me these past couple of months, and part of the reason why I feel so fatigued today because of my indecisiveness. So, but I'm successful. I completed this and I feel pleased with myself for sticking with this project because I really was going to frog it. I was just so frustrated with my poor yarn management and failure to implement the plan that I created for myself to be successful with this. So all in all, this was a very emotional project. I feel like I poured a lot of frustration, non-happy feelings for a lack of better adjective, but I'm so grateful that even with all the negative energy, I know I have ends to weave in, that all the negative energy that went into this particular garment, it came out beautiful. If I am capable, I will insert like a little couple of pictures of myself wearing this. And if not, you can just check me out on my Ravelry and you'll see the whole kit and caboodle. But I'm so glad that project is finished and that it is meeting my expectation. It fits really nicely. So I'm proud of myself. The second finished object I have is another Hoagie Locatelli pattern. You might sense a little bit of a theme, but don't read into it too much. I decided to, for the second year in a row, join her knit along. Here's a bag from last year. She hosts this annual knit along where you can pick any of her self-published patterns. You usually get a discount. You pick out your favorite ones, the ones that you've been dying to cast on, but you want to do with a group of people, and go for it. And last year, the goal was to do the Instant Crush, basically everything she had released in that particular fall catalog of patterns. And the only thing I ended up making out of that was 2 out of the 6 patterns. So but it's okay. It was a really fun knit along. I got a chance to chat with some folks on there, and I loved the various photos of different finished objects, and it was really inspiring. So this year, I had planned on knitting the Insta Crush. I was gonna buck up and give it a whirl, even though I'd never done a all over color work sweater using just two strands of mohair, and I knew that in itself it would be a challenge. And I second guessed myself and I talked myself out of doing the pattern. I mean, I went through a whole mantra of reasons why I could not do this pattern. And so then I decided to uh, do the scoop sweater. This is another beautiful round yoke pattern by Locatelli, and I've had my eye on it. I purchased it. I have plenty of different sweater quantities of yarn to do it in. And once again, I made a variety of different excuses as to why I just can't move forward with it. I talked myself out of that, even though I've been obsessing about that particular pattern since it came out. It's just my style. Like, it is the style of clothing I would definitely wear myself. I mean, yes, I might dress in my typical suburban mom gear, but if I were to make these sweatshirty, cozy, comfy sweaters, I would be wearing that over my lycra that I have on right now. So in addition to that pattern, I also entered the Emery sweater as well as the Solare. And I just knew that I was going to knit all four garments. Well, as I said, I talked myself out of two, and I went ahead and decided to just focus on the two patterns that I was really desiring the most or pulsating the most about, which was the Solare sweater as well as the Emery vest. I'm in 2024 is the season of cables. I have been trying my best to knit every form of cable. My goal is to still do a cable shawl because I've done a scarf a few years ago, but I haven't done a shawl. And obviously to knit the cable cardigan. Otherwise, I will have knit every other thing except for a cable pair of gloves. So I take that back. So that's my goal. I want to give this one more try just to really get in there. And so that's what I was telling myself when it came down to picking the Emery vest. I'm glad I picked the Emery vest. Again, this is another emotional project. If you've seen previous videos, you know, but those of you who don't know, recap. With the recap in itself, it was the day that this issue happened. I realized I lost. It was either my dog tags or passports. I can't remember which catastrophe it was, but I think it. So having lost I believe it was the passports with that particular incident. Having lost my passport was really just not mine, but also my children's. I don't know, it really hit me in the gut. I pride myself on being responsible, being organized. That's one of the things I feel is one of my features, both professionally and personally. And to lose something so important, it was really disappointing. And I was feeling so insecure about myself and just really ripping myself a new one. And I just need something to channel this energy. I need to concentrate on something else. I need it to be complex enough where it would engage me, make me curious, inquisitive, problem solve, implement a decision, accept the mistakes of that decision. So I did all that. And it was a rough start. It took me 4 times to cast on the garment. And then by the fourth time, I finally get it. It wasn't a complex cast on. I just want to emphasize this is definitely a beginner friendly textured sweater. If you know how to knit and purl, you're definitely going to be in good company with this. If you know how to cable without a cable needle, you are going to love this pattern. So it took me 4 times to cast on because, again, not all here. Got it cast on, was trucking away, and I realized I really didn't like this darker mohair that I had at the top. So I thought about it and thought about it, and I was like, I'm going to stop using it. But I didn't want to frog back what I've already done because of the drama I went through with casting this on. Because you're not starting with the collar, you're starting with the actual body of the sweater. So anyway, I decided just say, you know what, F it. I made this mistake in color. I should have did a swatch to see if I wanted the darker color. I don't. However, I'm not going to fraud that because I'm proud of this initial diamond because it was hard and I persevered through it. And I'm emotionally attached. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to use the mohair I do want on the rest of the body and keep using it till I ran out. Well, I did run out. I ran out towards the bottom. So as you can see, the main part of the body I was able to do in a lighter color mohair, and then I decided to use a similar darker color mohair, as you can see here at the bottom. With that one, it's not as obvious as the top, at least in my eyes. It blends a lot better. So all in all, I finally got my gray pullover. So if I don't make a gray sweater for 2024, I have this pullover as a really vest, excuse me, as a wonderful compromise, because a nice long sleeve shirt will look beautiful underneath this, whether it's a button down or one of those like tighter fit t-shirts. So very, very happy about this choice. And although I might be too old for this, I have seen people wear t-shirts under their vests in those transitional weathers, and today would be perfect for that because it's chilly outside when the sun goes behind a cloud, but then it warms back up. So these are my two finished objects, both patterns designed by Locatelli, and I'm very, very excited to talk about my current whips. So I have successfully cast on the Wednesday sweater. It is not in any place different as it was the last time I mentioned it, so I'm not going to bring that one up. Plus, it's 3 different skeins of yarn being held together, and every time I take it out of the bag, it galls over everywhere. Doesn't matter what I do, it's definitely not a good job on my end. However, I have a little story to tell you. Hopefully you're interested in hearing this about my cloud sweater. So this is the sweater that my sister-in-law picked out when we were at Pick Up Every Stitch in Mount Kisco, New York. And after she picked her yarn and the sweater, she asked if I would knit it for her, and I said yes, of course, because I love Malabrigo yarn. Plus, I was curious about the pattern, and it gives me a chance to try something new, and it's not my yarn, so it works out in the end. So with that said, for anytime I do a project for her or others, that's more of about the product than the process for me. I want to see that final product and make sure it is like my A plus. Everything else is like my practice, my homework, but this is my exam and I really want to do good on it. So with this particular exam, I had started off right out the gate, loving it, having so much fun, but noticing it was a bit smaller than what it was supposed to be. And then after I finally measured my gauge, I realized I was off quite a bit, but I was on for the DK version. So I decided to use the DK version. I went ahead and purchased a pattern because Petite knits patterns are very inexpensive. And so they were even cheaper than what they are now. I remember when I first started knitting, they were like $5, sometimes $6, but most of them were like $5.62. Now they're $9. So, or $7, between $7 and $9. Anywho, I digress. So I did the gauge swatch again, saw that I was on gauge for the DK cloud version of the garment. Went ahead and recast on, so I had to frog back everything, which was hard because I had made such significant progress. Excuse me 1 minute. So back again. Had to go take care of the fam. Everyone's all good, just being my beautiful babies that they are. But I don't know exactly where I left off, so I'm just going to dive into this in order to ensure that this is not a 3-hour video therapy session, because you're not here for that. You're here to hear about knitting and crochet content. So what I was saying was this is coming along well. I am crushing it. I'm loving it. And I should hopefully be finished by the end of this month. I had, for some odd reason, wanted to finish it today, November 11th. But I'm grateful that I already have 2 other projects that are finished. So it is quite all right if I don't finish this particular one today. So I'm just going to put this one down. I am using my new lemon wood holder. It took a while to figure it out. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why the most simplest doohickeys are the ones that throw me through a lurch, but I struggled at first with this one for no other reason than me just being a little bit of a ditz at the moment. But I figured it out and we're now good friends, and I am very glad I got the project. And so because I was up late last night, indecision 2024 in this house about what project I'm going to knit and what's going to engage my mind to take my mental energy from things I just just had to put on hold, where I just like, I can only do but so much. I got to give to myself. I got to give to my kids. I got to give to my husband. I just need to take a break from some other thoughts. So, because uh, overall, this past week was, despite various perspectives about the outcome of the 2024 American election. It was such an engaging week with my students, their curiosity, their enthusiasm just to learn more about political structure so they can be more informed as they're interacting with people, no matter what shared or different beliefs they may have. It was really exciting to have lunch and catch up with one of my good work friends who I haven't had a chance to see. She and her wife just had a baby, so she's been super busy, and so it was just really wonderful just to sit and catch up with her. And then on Friday, I went out to dinner with one of my knitting buddies, and we were just able to sit and knit and talk. It was wonderful. So, focusing on the positives, there was a lot of positives that came out of last week. However, uh, my mind has been on so much, especially these past couple of days, both professionally and personally, that I just like, you know what, I wanted to cast on a new project today, even though I made a promise to myself not to cast on any new projects until I finish the sweaters that are currently on my needles. Naturally, I'm breaking my promise to myself. So I was like, I need to do this. I need to be engaged. I just need to. And long story short, I decided to go down every rabbit hole there's available on Ravelry about cable sweaters, and made a plan around like 10:30. And by 1:30, talked myself out of the plan. By 3:30, talked myself back into the plan. And by 4:30, left with no plan. So yes, I was up to 4:30 last night. I took melatonin to help me sleep. I had some lavender tea. I ate a very filling meal. I just could not turn my brain off. I put on an audiobook, which was so big old twist. I listened to the audiobook. I think her name is Frida something. It's called The Boyfriend. It was good, but you thought, at least I did. I thought I knew every plot direction for this, every single one. And then she would do a little twist. You're like, okay, I didn't quite see that coming. But it works. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And the ending. So that also is the reason why I stayed up late. And I will admit, I was scrolling on Instagram. I'm one of those people like, ooh, and then 5 hours later will pass by. And believe it or not, I didn't really like social media. I was never like a big fan of it. But for some reason, I love looking at those reels about the cats and the dogs, and about the joys of raising toddlers. And I was like, oh, I remember those days. So glad they're over. Um, so I get lost into that. And some of the teacher comedy too. It's nice to relate to some of the commentary that's there. So with all that said, I was up late. So the original decision I had made, I am going to share, and we're going to go from there, and we'll wrap this up. So I came to the conclusion, one of the engaging projects, that this is a mindless knit where I can sit and talk with my boys and family and go to the movies and knit this and have a good time. But I need something that might stimulate my brain. That's also small and portable. So I know I keep reaching over for the yarn. So I'm going to cast on my husband's hat using this yarn I got from Pickleberry Stitch. Not Pickleberry Stitch. I got it from Indian Tangle. It's Novella. I don't know. I am going to put the description in the speaker notes, and there's also in the description, excuse me, and this will be on my Ravelry as soon as I cast on. So if you are on my Ravelry, you can see it there. Very excited about this project. It's a cool looking hat, and I think it would fit into his wardrobe really well. And now that we're in that fluctuating season where it's sometimes cool enough for a hat, but then it gets warm enough where you don't need it, I think that will be a good transition piece for him. So that has happened. 2024 has been the season of cables for me, and there are three type of cable projects I still have not done: a cable shawl, cable mittens, and a cable cardigan. I don't have a cable knitting pattern that I'm just like, I want to cast this on. I can keep looking in my library and do so, but the reality is, I don't wear mittens. No one in my family would wear it. I may still decide to go back and do it, especially with those, those like one or two skeins of yarn that you have no clue what you're doing with that particular pattern. That's probably something I would use it for. I'd probably make some um, gloves with it. And if I can't find a cable stitch I like, I can always just do a 3x3 cable, left leaning cable, using the penny gloves. Maybe do left on my left hand and right on my right hand and call it a day. So there are options in terms of the gloves, that I can actually, draft my own. I need to just do it, make those big modifications. The other project that I am going to cast on for 2024 will be the Brady Loop cardigan by Other Loops. I have wanted to make a cable cardigan throughout 2024, and now that we're almost at the end of it, I don't want to miss this chance to cast on. Now, I have a variety of different cardigans I've been looking at for months now, trying to decide which cable cardigan I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, I knew I wanted a dusty, like light pink cardigan, but I also wanted a gray cardigan. And I almost went forward with doing a cardigan in gray that's cabled, but I recognized that it just would not fit the style of what I've envisioned for the yarn I was potentially going to use for that. So instead, I compromised with myself. I am going to use that yarn, but for what project, I have three options to contend with. And while I'm trying to make that decision, I'm going to go ahead and go with the yarn I originally purchased for the Brady Loops project, which is the Camilla Fiber Co. Rose. This particular yarn is a CFC Sullivan DK. It's 70% alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere in the color blackberry. And I chose this because of the dusty pink. I've always wanted a dusty pink cardigan. I have these beautiful tan boots that look so great with jeans, and I wanted to always wear a dusty pink cardigan with it because I have a dusty pink blazer that I wear with it that looks super great. I also want a cardigan. So I was really excited when I saw this, and there were only 5 skeins of it left, and I was like, I'm gonna make it work. And I will definitely be able to make it work. So I already have the ballerina pink yarn at home that I thought would pair well with this. Even though this yarn is so soft, it really doesn't need it, and it already has a fuzz factor to it. The issue is with using this particular yarn, I had planned on making the Stockholm sweater with this. There's very few mohairs I wouldn't mind having skin to body, and this is definitely one of them. Knitting for Olive has nailed it on the mohair that is inexpensive in multiple colors, yet are not, it's not itchy to your skin. So with that said, although this is beautiful and it does go well with the yarn, I was on the fence about using it and potentially trying something else. In the end, again, up to 4:30 in the morning, I decided just to go with the original plan of using these two together, and recognizing that I have a significant amount of mohair that's literally popping up right there, that I can do it in a lilac color. I can also do it in a gray color. I can do it in a mauve. I can even do a faded mauve. So there are so many options I have in my mohair bag that I'm just going to, and plus I haven't purchased the sweater. I'm not fully committed to it. So there's still time to make a decision about that. So I'm really excited about casting this on. And because I want to do this well, this is my last cable cardigan that I'm going to make for 2024. It's my last cardigan, I should say, that I'm making for 2024. I made the Copenhagen this year. I made the Champagne cardigan this year. And so those were two really so proud of myself projects that I had been eyeing and trying to push myself to do, and was so proud of myself for having the courage to go ahead and cast it on, that I really want to finish out with a bang with this one, because I never did Brady Loops before, but I think it is, reading the pattern, it looks like I will have to pay a little bit close attention, but once I get past one point, I will be able to move forward with it. So I'm really am excited about it. It's a different construction. I never made a cardigan starting with the sleeve and moving over from there. And I think it's simple enough that when I'm ready to do it on the litho, because I just read, I was up to 4:30 last night. I read through the litho pattern, like for the third or fourth time, and really just wrap my head around the fact that this is not a standard start at your top of your collar and work your way down or bottom up. cardigan, this is a start with the sleeve, you do this, and there's this modular turn, and it's all kinds of like fanciness, but the product is beautiful. So I'm ready for that challenge for probably 2025. Don't see myself doing it. So the Brady loop will be my last cardigan I'm going to cast on for this year. I was going to do the throwback, and I have to accept the fact I love the motif in a round yoke, but definitely not in a cardigan. So just gotta let it go. And I don't wear my cardigans buttoned, which is the reason why it wouldn't look, it just wouldn't fit my wardrobe. So I would like to cast on one more uh, fantasy project that I have talked myself out of casting on more times than I care to admit, and that is the Arctic Light sweater. I have spent so much time and energy analyzing about when and how to do this project, and I have just to say I just need to just do it. And I know I can do it because of the success I had with the Emery vest. And I know I can do this because also she has video tutorials, which I think are really a big help. Now, this summer, I had initially cast on for the Arctic Light using my Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. I didn't really like the fabric. And then rather than just continue to go forward with it, I decided to put a pin on that because when I think of the Arctic Light, I want it to be a squishy, warm, cozy sweater. Whereas that Knitting for Olive would be ideal for my storm sweater, where I want it to be textured and lightweight and just flowy. So, or a brioche. That yarn would probably look amazing in brioche. So I decided to put a pin on that and was going back and forth with myself about what do I want to do. And the original plan was to use my Sanders Garn yarn with my Drops Mohair yarn. This is like in the color, they're off-white. This is, the color is 1001. So I'm like, oh, and I like the fabric that they made. I got gauged, so I know this is good to go. Now that I've worked with different mohair, I really recognize the fact that Drops Kids mohair is just not the softest. And if I'm gonna, and this is a close fitted sweater. This is not one of those boat neck sweaters or turtleneck that droops. This is like on your neck all day. And I could just see myself doing this all day while wearing this. I don't want to do that. So my compromise with myself is to save this for the Stockholm sweater, because if I pair this with a Knitting for Olive yarn, it will avoid that itch factor. So I'm gonna, or just donate it. I might also do that too. So I'm gonna put this to the side and use my 2 Surrey alpacas. And so I wanted this sweater to have more than just this white. I wanted it to pop a little bit. So I bought this yarn with the intention of making a hat with it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I'm like, this would be such a great sweater fabric or yarn to use to fade in. This is a 246 DK weight baby Surrey alpaca. It's 90% baby Surrey alpaca and 10% mohair. So it definitely has a little bit more of a weight to it as well. But I just think it would be really just the right thing to use. And I honestly wish I got more, because I would have paired these 2 little babies together. But I do recognize this has so much energy in it already. It doesn't need another thing to make it pop, where I think that this will give the sweater some like added flavor. And if I just do this right, I can successfully make like multiple 20 grams. So this is 100 grams. So to break this into multiple of 20 grams, and then I can interweave it in throughout the garment. So I think that's what's going to happen. What I will probably do is, for the Arctic Light, I'm going to do a provisional cast on. I want to say the collar to the end, because I have in the past just found that my collars can get a little stretched out, and that was the first thing I noticed when I did it with the Knitting for Olive cotton merino. So I'm going to do a provisional cast on, just go ahead and go straight into the expectations for the charts. I've already uploaded the pattern to my Knit Companion, which I think will really help me with that. For this particular project, I'm not going to cast it on today. That was my initial plan, but if I didn't save to 4:30 in the morning, I would have. But because I am feeling slightly fatigued, and I know my brain may not have the mental energy to do it, I am going to put a pause on casting this on, and hopefully will not get any new ideas about doing this or doing that with it. And I hope that the cables will still pop out, even though this is such a very variegated yarn. This is the color, I can't even say that, but it's in Italian. It's by Domitella yarn. It's a very beautiful, it's just really beautiful and so soft. So I just want to give it a try. Like, that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to spread my wings, and I already made a all over cabled pullover. That one of my favorite things about it is the different fades of color, and that's due to the hand dyed yarn, as well as me playing yarn chicken on the sleeves and how I have a different colorway for the sleeves. And I'm like, that it's so beautiful. Why wouldn't this do the same thing? You got to be creative. So that's what I'm going to do. So because I am a little tired this morning and I'm still doing my own laundry and taking care of my kids, I decided that I'm just going to project plan, which I have it all set up. My yarn is all caked up. Obviously, I need to cake this one up. So my yarn is ready to be caked up. This is all set to be cast on as well. I'm going to find the right needles that I want to use, because I've been misplacing my needles lately. Like, I lost my 4.5 millimeter needles, and I know I placed it in like a little safe place, and now I cannot remember where that safe place is. Did it come back to me? Nope. I was hoping it was in one of my little plastic dividers, because I remember putting it in there one time because I was afraid I was going to drop it on the floor, but I see it's not there. So there's a possibility that this lovely hat might be, because I think it's 4.5 millimeters. And if it is, I'm going to have to do magic loop. There's just no way. There's no way. But yeah, so really am excited about that. Just get this out. And I'm going to work on my cloud sweater by Petite Knit and my Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit on my off time. I know that this has been a very heavy Petite Knit pattern. I want to emphasize that I am open to all designers. I don't just say that these are the only ones. For me, Petite Knit was one of the first major designer that I used, where I successfully and consistently made a garment that fit the way it was supposed to fit and came out the way that I had envisioned for it. So I haven't had too much issue with it. And I think if there's a designer that allows you to knit your very best self, you should use them. Now, in addition to Petite Knit, I've used other big names like Isabel Kramer, obviously Andrea Amari, and Hoagie Locatelli, but I've also have interacted and purchased yarn as well as patterns from lesser known designers who, dip into both the design as well as to the hand dyeing. And I'm going to continue to do that too. I think it's nice to spread your wings, but also when you're doing, especially if it's a new stitch pattern that you're not 100% comfortable with, trying someone new. So I got a little old, I got a little new. That's going to happen with my knitting needles. But I also going to do, as I'm holding knitting needles, I'm also going to cast on using a crochet hook some Christmas stockings. I saw these, I was on YouTube, and one of the people who I follow on there was talking about different stockings that you can make with her 20 patterns. And I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued. So I'm going to sit here and watch the tutorial and see if I can pick it up, because I find that I can't read crochet patterns as well as I can knitting patterns, which is weird to me. I still don't get it. But because I cannot read a crochet pattern as well, I can read it, but it takes me longer. I tend to struggle, and it takes me a minute to kind of circle back and say, okay, I need to try this again. Whereas a knitting pattern, I can just read that and immediately understand what I need to do. I don't know, maybe they write differently, who knows? But what I do know is that I'm excited about knitting some granny squares and hexagons, because it's been a minute. So I'm going to use some leftover yarn I got, that I found literally this morning. This is some leftover red yarn from Mrs. Babs. This is their Dark Andromeda, I believe it's called, but it's Mrs. Bab. This is a fingering weight yarn, or it's either sport or fingering weight. I can't really remember. I used this to make my champagne cardigan. This yarn here, This is from my Harlem Renaissance yarn that I purchased to celebrate Black History Month by buying Black owned designers and hand dyers. So this was from the collection. I used some of the yarn for other projects. So I had initially planned on knitting some socks that didn't come to fruition. And then finally, this is some leftover yarn that I purchased from Pick Up Every Stitch. This is from their trunk show with Lego Songs. And this is like this army colored yarn or whatnot. So I figure that these three colors together will make a really fun motif for the holidays. And I have some other creamy color yarn that I can use as well. And yeah. And the great thing is I don't have to worry about keeping it clean or anything because it's just going into a very highly secured Christmas decorations. So I'm excited to do that today. So I'm going to clean up this mess that I made here at the table so I can have all my stuff to talk to y'all. I'm going to put all the stuff away, and then I'm going to continue to check the dryer to see if my clothes are ready to be folded and put it away, because that's my favorite part. And hopefully tap into an audiobook, some knitting podcasts, and just chill. So that way I knit so I don't unravel. This is one of my favorite mugs. I used to have my hair this color. That's why I went ahead and purchased this one. But anyway, I digress. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this Monday edition of Friday Night Knits. I try to film these episodes each about once a week, sometimes twice, just depending on what's going on in my life. And I can honestly say I really enjoyed the support. And so if you like tonight's video or today's video, whenever it is that you're watching it, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more knitting rambles and tales to share with all of you. Have a wonderful day.